Hey everyone, welcome to the Fireside Chat number 42 on Crushing Classical, redefining a thriving classical music career. I'm Tracy Friedlander, and today Eileen and I debrief the first year at Crushing Classical. Starting something is hard, and it's really great when you've been consistent to look back and see what you've done, what you've changed, and what worked and what didn't. We dive into the details and behind the scenes of things we've done this year that worked, and even my biggest fail of the year. As you listen, map this onto your projects. If you've been consistent on something for a long time, have a look at how far you've come. If you're just starting something out, imagine the satisfaction of being consistent and use some of our examples to come up with ideas for yourself. Before we start, a couple of quick things. Please join the conversation at facebook.com/crushingclassical as well as Crushing Classical on Instagram. If you love what you see, it would mean so much to us if you would comment on posts and share them with your classical musician friends and colleagues. Also, if you love these podcasts, please take a moment to review Crushing Classical on iTunes. Having more reviews helps more musicians to find our podcast, and we really appreciate it. And if you haven't done it yet, join our group Classical Cats. It's an active group of people with lots of conversation going on in there. We also added resources about social media as well as a list of all the episodes we have ever published, organized by category. Join today at facebook.com/groups/crushingclassical. Let's get started. Hey, Eileen, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. So today I wanted to talk about the year because I've been writing a post that I'm going to post this weekend just about like looking back on the year because this is my first complete year doing Crushing Classical. And so I've just seen...
Yeah, it's a big milestone.
Yeah, it's a huge
It's a very big
milestone.
milestone to have done something consistently for a year is a big deal.
Yeah,
Most
yeah,
people don't last that long. They last like a month or two and then they're out.
right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so I just was like, whoa, I learned a ton, a
Hmm.
ton. And the process really is what's the crazy part, like the realizing all that I've figured out how to do over the last year,
Hmm.
and it occurred to me that it's so much like starting an instrument, and but that was so long ago that it doesn't, we forgot. So like now I'm an adult, and this is for anybody who's starting anything. Now you're an adult. So when you're starting something, whether it's, you're coming up with a new career idea or a side hustle or whatever, now you're an adult, which sucks because you're starting learning new abilities and new things that you have to do for this thing. And it's hard because you're a beginner, a complete
Hmm.
beginner.
Yep. Totally. It's and it's funny because when you're a kid, you don't have a choice but to learn.
Yeah.
And when you're an adult, you have a choice. You can learn or you can stick to what you know.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I think that's the hardest part about it, honestly, is it's so much easier to revert to what you know. And then, but here's the problem is that your life stays exactly the same.
Exactly.
That's the issue with it.
Yeah. And I didn't want that. So, and as I was reflecting on this, I was thinking about like how, um, it's so easy, I think, for classical musicians because we're so used to it. Like, I know that I can just, if I find out that, I'm working on a concerto and someone thinks, a teacher thinks it could be more musical here, it could be smoother there, your legato is this, da da da. It's objective, and you go, okay, I can fix that. It's not a problem. You don't take it personally. You don't like, oh, I'm the worst person. I really suck at this. I mean, for the most part, I mean, people
Yeah,
have
I'm
their
sure there's some
moments.
people who go there, but probably, after a certain number of years, you just get, okay, I need to be more legato there. Okay.
Yeah, it's like you just accept it. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I actually knew
Yeah.
that, and you're right, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna work on
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Or you listen to a recording of yourself and you go, oh, yeah, I'm still doing that thing. Okay, I'll fix it. And it's not. It's just objective. It's not like you're turning it into I can't learn new things. I'm an
Hmm.
idiot. And so as I was learning all these new things, and seeing other people start them through Crushing Classical, it's like that's the thing. You go, oh wow, man. Um, there's this is an issue. Not making myself feel like crap about that I don't know
Mhm.
how to do things. And so, and
Yep.
I spent a lot of this year, honestly, quite honestly, making myself feel like shit over things. I hate to admit
Yeah.
it, but it's just true. So I'm just going to tell you. I just felt so many times like, and of course, you're helping me through this whole thing, and training me essentially in a
Hmm.
new way. I mean,
Yep.
I'm starting like a friggin' fifth grade horn player and finding out that, okay, nice try, but it's not right. Or, hey,
Hmm.
you still haven't figured this out yet, and you gotta get back in there and do it some more,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, yeah, so that was one of the biggest, that's like the biggest thing for me is
Mhm.
realizing that, being objective with yourself and just not judging yourself and making yourself like a piece of shit for not
Yep.
for not learning something fast enough or not getting it fast enough or not knowing something at all. Like that's the
Hmm.
worst thing. Like I would just crap all over myself for like not knowing something at all. Like how the hell am I supposed to know yet
And
if I
like,
didn't
so
learn it?
what, like, give me an example of something you didn't know at all that you felt like you should, or that you felt bad about you didn't know it.
At the very beginning, like we're talking the dawn of Crushing Classical, I didn't know how to do social media stuff. Like I would always question, is this the right thing to post? Oh, I don't know what they're going to think if I say this. So, um,
Mm.
with Instagram, I just questioned everything I did and I felt like I had to hack it. Like I felt like, I mean, if you go to the Googles and start searching like how you figure out social media, that's what you're going to get. Like you're going to get this message back that you are over there and you haven't figured this out and we're over here and we know it and we're going to write an article to give you a kind of a snippet of what stuff you should know in order to hack it and figure it out. But after doing this for a year and a half, I can tell you there's no hacking and figuring it out. It's just doing it and just keeping on doing it a lot.
Yeah, I agree. There is no quote unquote right way.
Yeah.
There just isn't. There is not a right way because every audience is different.
Yep.
And you have to figure out what works for your audience. There's certain messaging that we started with. I know you remember.
Oh, yeah.
There was certain messaging we started with, and we sort of kind of migrated it over time. But it took us a while to figure out what was going to work or what people were going to respond to or what it really did. It took us a long time to figure out what people wanted to see.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You remember, I mean, you remember where we started.
Yeah.
And then, and a lot of our messaging was definitely, unique career focused or whatever. But then we started moving into some funny things. We started going, let's be more entertaining.
Uh
And so
huh.
I remember when we started doing more entertaining type things. And then there was also doing your story, different stories about your life, the different series that you do, you
Yeah.
know,
And we
like the
found out through
stories about,
comments, like
yeah, we
people are
found through
like,
comments, people really liked it.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, oh, we get to know you on these.
Yep.
And and
Totally.
and now when I look at other people's pages, I go, well, who are you? You
Right.
know?
I know it's like everybody pretty much knows your story now. If they've been following Crushing Classical for say 6 months,
Mhm.
they probably know your whole story, is my
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Which is great because I mean it should be that way. They should know your story, actually.
Yeah.
It's so much more interesting to follow when you know someone's story. And so, but it really took a while though for us to figure out to get a rhythm. And I would say now where you are with social media, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Tracy really mans all the social media here. She's really got a rhythm now. Like I think you really have gotten into to a place where you know what to post. You just know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that took a year and a half
Yeah,
to
it
get
did.
here. And I would say you've known for what do you think? Like about 2 months, 3 months
Yes.
ish?
I know. Isn't that the funny part? Like, it's not all that gradual. Well, it is gradual, but like, I haven't known that long and I've been at it for this long and it evolves too because I'll do something for a while and I'll go, you know what? Let's do something different on this day or
Change it up.
whatever.
Let's change
Yeah.
it up. Yep, totally. Yep. You have to change things up enough, even just to keep your own interest, but also
Yeah.
because you can just tell when something is coming to its end. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can just tell. You can tell when something has sort of lasted its course.
Yeah. I felt like that a little bit about the fill in the blank Friday because I like it and I might bring it back again, but I kind of was running out of ideas of things to fill in the blank. So I was like, well, let's put it on the shelf and do something else on Friday.
Yeah,
And I like what one of the things I figured out was picking something to do on each day because that really takes a lot of the blank canvas effect out of it. Like when you're going, okay, what do I post out of anything in the world? What can I write on this page today? Like
that's right.
you got to take that factor out of it because
Yep.
that's when you start getting that in that area of I don't know,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. I think having some kind of series on regular series on days is helpful.
Yeah. And when we lightened it up, it really kind of and not to say that we don't do serious posts because we do. Every now and then, like about like things that we're opinionated about with career and things like that. Those are important too. But
Hmm.
to lighten it up was a really big. It was really big when we started doing
Hmm.
that, especially when we did that meme, which was so great. I mean, that was if you want to talk about a game changer that we had this year,
Yep.
the stand meme.
Yeah, the broken stand meme. The whole, what was it? I don't always get to rehearsal early, but when I do, it's to trade your my broken stand with your good one, I
Yeah,
think is what it said, something like that.
yeah, and it was
And
the
people
dose
went that
at
that
Keys
went
guy.
completely viral, absolutely viral. We added, and by the way, it wasn't like there was not work involved. It's not like everybody just came and liked our page. It's that people liked the meme and passed it around, and every single like, Tracy invited people to like the page.
Yes.
And so we ended up adding, I don't know, probably around 400 likes to our page.
Yeah, that was fantastic when that
It was
happened.
a total game changer. And I'll tell you that the other thing that we did that made that work is, when that happened, I remember we were watching it and going, I can't believe what's happening with this meme, you know.
It was crazy.
And it was shocking. I mean, I couldn't believe how popular it was. And so at the time though, I said to Tracy, okay, now we need to do so, like we need to launch something. We need to launch something, is what I said to her. We have to take advantage of all these new eyeballs that we have and launch something. And that's when we launched our first challenge.
Yes, that's
It was
right.
immediately after that. I was like, okay, we have to capitalize on this. All these new eyeballs, we need to capitalize on it. So let's just launch a free challenge. And that's when the challenges started.
Yes,
So you really, what to learn from this? You need to capitalize on momentum
for sure.
because it really was a game changer. I mean, it was like meme was a game changer, followed by challenge was a game changer, followed by, I mean, really, there were a series of game changers
Yeah,
that happened in the last, say, September, October, November, December of the year.
yeah,
It really did sort of, the tide just sort of turned. Now, I'm not saying we didn't do it. We did do it, but I'm just saying that we very intelligently capitalized on some things.
yeah. And you know, the meme idea came after some other um, post ideas that we were trying to get sort of the same effect out of. You
Yes.
know, like we were
We
trying
had
to,
tried several. We
yeah,
tried several different memes, and they didn't take off the way we wanted them to.
yeah,
And I think, and in fact, I'm pretty sure that Tracy was the one who thought of the broken stand meme.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure Tracy thought of that, and we actually modeled it after something we saw in a different niche.
yeah. But I
So that's a, that's
remember,
another that's another learning thing, by the way, is a lot of our great ideas came from other niches, and we just adapted them.
yeah, and that is so important to do
So
because
important.
how
I
can
tell
you
people
have
that all the
like
time.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can't have like a bottomless well of ideas every day that come out of nowhere. Like that's
no,
not
it
it's
doesn't
just not
work.
possible. So
Never. It just doesn't work that way, seriously. And you never know what's going to work either. Some things you send them out and you think they're going to strike gold, and then you're like, wah, 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 wah. That did
yeah,
not work. And then there's other things you send out and you're like, why did that go nuts?
I know because I thought my social media video was pretty damn good and it did okay.
Yeah, it did okay, but it didn't do as well as we thought it would do.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, like you think things are going to work, or it's interesting that, you can only, that's why I say there's no formula. That's why Tracy just said there is no formula, because you don't know what your audience is going to react to. And I had no idea that the broken stand meme was going to hit like 200,000. I mean, organic reach was about 200,000.
It was insane.
It was insane.
I think shares. I think it had like 1,000 shares.
Yeah. Shares alone, I think it had more than 1,000 shares actually.
That's an insane number. I mean, it was just
It
insane.
is. It's insane. I
Yeah,
know.
and I
It's crazy.
remember I remember that because you were like, "What are things that you guys do that you don't like to admit?"
Yeah. I mean, and that's really how it got started. Because, of course, I haven't been a musician for a while, so I'm going to Tracy and her husband. I'm like, okay, guys, I need some ideas here,
Yeah,
because there's certain things that happen in classical music that classical musicians understand,
yeah. I
and that's
mean,
one. Yep.
yeah, and it's just so funny because I remember like the last time I did that, and I remember because the broken stand friggin' like fell. The one that I swapped, it was like doing that sinking thing like the whole time for the guy I swapped it
Oh,
for. I'm
I
such a
know.
jerk for doing that, but oh
Dude, and
well,
listen,
shit happens.
I did it every rehearsal, every single rehearsal. I mean, I'm not kidding. I was always there first, I was always there early, and I was always trading stands every time. I was even testing out stands, like
Yeah.
before anybody got in the room, kind of thing.
Yeah, because you don't want the one that
You
flips your music on the floor, the one that
Yeah,
sinks.
no, and the one that sings, the one that's like, sliding down every time you put something on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think you've learned a ton this
Yeah.
year, a
So
ton. But
much.
and I know that you had, like, there were some really hard moments for you during
Super
this
hard.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys don't even get to see what goes on behind the scenes. Because, and it's funny, like, it's fine, like, it's great because we both get along really well, and but whatever. But it's not easy when you mess things up, or it doesn't do what you wanted it to do, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or even just the little things. I know this sounds stupid, but like just if I write a post and it doesn't land well and Eileen reads it and goes, "This is not usable."
I love this. This is not usable.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll get that. Like I'm always glad when because you help me edit. Because seriously, my English my level of English skills. Like I was always really good at English class in high school, but I didn't have like teachers that I don't know. I think my teachers thought I was pretty good, and so I got an A, and that was it. I didn't get challenged
Uh,
in there, and so I didn't get it more advanced in my writing skills. So um, you edit, and so sometimes
mhm.
um, sometimes you'll edit and go. So when I get a response and it's the edited version, I'm like, good.
Right,
And this
right.
happens way less than it used to. Like it used to, like I found an old document where you had written like this story has no point.
Well, and it's really funny because I look at where Tracy's come now, as far as she's come now after, basically what, a year and say a quarter anyway of me editing posts.
Yeah.
And so the stuff that you're writing now needs so much less editing. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, which is really important. There's a point. There's so many improvements, so many massive improvements in your writing. And I'm actually really glad that you can see that about your writing now. In other words,
Yeah.
you're not necessarily looking for me to validate it. You're just looking for me to edit it for content and,
Right. Oh, that's a
rev.
really great distinction because before I was looking for that. Like, is this good enough? Is this okay?
Right.
Like, and now
Yeah,
I know when it's okay. And sometimes
you
I'll
know.
send you stuff where I'm like, I don't know if this is okay, but let's see what she thinks. Maybe she thinks there's an idea in here that's workable. And then sometimes you're like, yeah, I don't really see it. That's fine too. But like,
Yeah, sometimes, but I mean, that's far less now than it ever,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah,
really come a long way in that amount of time. And what's even cooler is we were talking about this before we got on the podcast here. Tracy's now at a point where she can now edit,
yeah,
which is a big deal. Let me tell you, to be able to edit writing, most
yeah.
people most people have trouble just writing, and editing writing is completely beyond their skill set, because editing writing is it's a whole nother skill. It really
Yeah.
is.
And I'm
And
just
so that's
realizing
something
this
I do
now.
really well.
Yeah, because I edit my own posts before I send them to you. And
Yep.
really that's I think probably why there's such a small amount of editing because I know that I I can go back and take a lot of stuff out. Like I'll just write what I'm thinking, and then I realize, oh, I could say it better this way. And I'm finally doing that thing where I write, put it away, come back and read it again and go, oh,
So much better, isn't it?
yeah,
It's so much better when you write and then you put it away and then maybe you sleep on it and the next day you come back.
yeah,
It's interesting how a day will give you a new view.
yeah. So Eileen, you know what's interesting? I'm realizing how far my writing has come during this conversation, and just like some conversations we've had the last couple of days,
Oh yeah.
and I think really how dumb it was that I tried to write a book.
Uh,
Like I tried to write a goddamn book.
well, and it's funny because, and we really haven't talked too much about this, but I mean, just privately, you and I haven't, but I knew back when you wanted to write a book that it was too soon for you to write a book, but I also didn't want to squash your desire
Yeah.
and you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to, I knew that if you didn't do that or at least try that, that it would be incomplete for you.
Yeah.
Do you know
And
what I mean?
yeah, and I think I've processed it enough a year and a half later, not even a half year, just a year and a couple months later. Actually, no, because this is like when I dropped it. When I was like, this is the time of year, or maybe like January of last year, when I was
January.
like,
Mhm.
this isn't happening.
Yep.
Closing the book on this.
Yep. It was actually sometime in January when it happened.
Yeah, and I
Yep.
I I had an editor and everything, and it was terrible because I wasted a lot of money. But um, you know, I really do know actually that I'm going to write a book, and when I do,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna hire some editor because really he told what I believed, which was ridiculous. I believed that all I had to do was put words on a page and then he would work his magic. Like this is exactly the words he said to me, which is
Hmm.
stupid. Like because I know that you can't take words, rearrange them, and make them into a good book when they weren't good before. You
That's a
know?
good point. That's a good point. Yep. And you're a much more capable writer now
Yeah.
than you were before. Like you're a much more capable storyteller now, which is very important when you're writing a book.
Yeah.
You're much more capable with the beginning, the middle, the end of writing,
Yeah.
which is important. The beginning, middle, and end. That's so important. People don't think about it that way, but writing is a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
There's a design to it. And so, yeah, I mean, so yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it's funny. It's good that you can look back on it now and go, that was probably not a good move. But it's funny, like it's one of those things that you can't really tell somebody. You can't really, when someone's determined to do something, they're just going to do it. It's kind of like your child. Like you can't tell your child not to go out for ballet, even though, they've got two left feet.
Right.
They got to go into ballet and like fall, they got to like fall 7 times and go, maybe ballet is not the right choice for me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what
It's
I mean?
yeah, you have to discover it yourself. And if someone says no, you can't do
Hmm.
that, then it becomes, oh, that person wouldn't let me and they're a jerk, and
Yep.
now I never got to be a ballerina.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. And so that's the reason why I decided not to, step in and interrupt it. And I also trusted that, you found a decent someone decent to help you.
Yeah, which turned out to be a not true.
Yeah, I mean that guy's just a really good con artist. He's just really good at selling himself is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, really,
That
he
happens.
convinced me, and and my unicorns that were running around in the backyard all decided together
Right.
that he would be the
We all had a
perfect.
we all had a meeting in the backyard.
Yeah, we got together. We had some rainbow soup, and then
That's right.
I believed
That's
that he could wave a magic wand and create a bestseller out of like, a stack of papers with words on them.
Yep.
And he was really convinced that it had to be a certain way too. And I remember telling you like, oh, it's going to be this, and then at the end of it's going to be this, and you're like, it doesn't have to be, just because,
Yeah.
and actually you're like, actually I've read books like that, and it's okay, but it's not like mind blowing. It was,
Yeah.
what he did is he had a template, and he wanted just to put whatever I wrote into his little template machine and crank out some version of something he's seen before and call it a day and get paid.
Hmm.
You know.
Yep. In fact, Tracy wanted to model a certain book, and what was it? Maybe 2 months before the project was over, I said, "Do you, it doesn't really seem like we're modeling this book. Like, does it
Yeah,
does
and I
okay,
knew
right?"
that because
And
there
so
was a
she
couple
goes,
times I wanted to scrap the whole thing and start over, and then that's when he was getting really annoyed with me because I was like, "Yeah, I don't like it. I'm gonna start over," and he's like, "What?" You
"Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly." And then, but here's the funny part. So she told him this at the beginning of the project. She told him about this book that she wanted to model,
Uh-huh.
and so she goes to him and tells him this, and then 2 months before the project is over, she says, "By the way, this is nothing like this book." And he goes, "Oh, you know what? I'll read this book." Like he hadn't read the book
I was floored. I couldn't believe he hadn't read it.
that she wanted to model. He had not read the book. And by the way, the book is not a long book. It's a short book. It's not it's a quick read.
And it's also like something that almost every business person has ever read,
Yeah,
you know?
it's a very, very, it's a very, very widely read book. And
Yeah.
so it was really, I mean, I couldn't believe it when I found out that he had not read the book.
Yeah.
That was part of the
It
gig.
was shocking.
Like, I want my book to be like this book. Oh, I haven't read the book, and it's like 8 months into the project. Really?
Yeah. I
Eight
mean,
or
I
nine
didn't think
months
I'd
into the
have to
project.
ask, did you read? Like, he made it seem like he did. He knew what I was
Yep.
talking. I mean, he knew of the book, but he had never actually sat down and read it.
But he never actually sat down and read it. Yeah,
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
it
So,
is. It is ridiculous.
yeah, so there's that. There's that
Yeah, so
big
that
F
that was
up.
a good learning for you, though. That whole thing was just a good learning for you.
Yeah.
Not the most fun way to learn, I understand, but still a really good that was a really good learning for you.
Yeah, and I realized much, much later because I came up with the idea of the permission triangle and I realized the reason why I realized what that was because that's what I was stuck in for
Mm-hmm.
this book situation. I felt like, oh, in order for me to, and mostly because he kept asking me, who are you to write this book? Who are you to have Crushing Classical? Like why are you doing it? Like what's your
Yep.
credentials? And so that's that triangles trap of I'm not qualified to do this, to say this or do this, so I have to have a book that says that I am, but who's going to read a book by somebody who doesn't have the credentials? So then you're trapped in this little pickle.
Yep. And I think that's the biggest bunch of crap ever is that you have to have some credential in order to do things. That's such nonsense, and
Yeah.
I wish that would die. I really truly wish that I don't know, belief or whatever people have, that understanding people have would just die already.
Yeah.
Because it's the most ridiculous thing.
It is.
You don't need any credential to be anything in this world. Not one single credential.
Yep. I
That's just
totally
a
agree.
myth that's been perpetuated for a super long time.
Yeah. But everyone thinks it, so they have to put on the if they've written a book and they're new to the space or whatever, they feel like they have to have like 15 people saying that, oh, this person's totally smart and da 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 da.
Yep,
It's silliness actually.
it is silliness. It's
Yeah.
total silliness. Yep, totally.
Yeah. So there's that, and then another thing has been a big process was learning how to create a good interview and realizing that it's
Hmm.
not just getting on and shooting the shit.
Totally.
So
Hmm.
once I realized that, and this was a hard pill to swallow sometimes too, because once we started working together more in depth, because I started the podcast like, hey, I'm just gonna start this, like
Right.
before I have studied every single Oprah interview that's ever been done, and you know what I mean, like,
Oprah. Right.
I mean, let's just use her. She's amazing, and
She is.
there are a lot of other people that are amazing interviewers, and I didn't sort of going in really with naivete, like, oh yeah, all you do is you sit down with someone and you just ask them some questions. That's all interviewing is. And then realizing that if that's all it is, then you might end up with a really long audio that doesn't have a beginning, a middle, and an end to it.
Hmm.
So, um,
Yeah,
you
your
know,
interviews have really been refined over time, I would say.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
with your help too, because um, realizing what it takes to make something catch you, because I know from when I listen to podcasts, I usually don't have a whole lot of time. So if it's
hmm.
not good right away, then I'll say, I only have a 20-minute drive. I want to hear something good while I'm on this drive. I don't want to,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
I don't have an hour to wait.
Yep. And what people don't realize too is there's actually a really effective way to interview, and there's a really ineffective way to interview. And most people are doing it the very ineffective way.
Yeah.
And that's what makes most podcasts, people are like, meh,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I remember actually, I remember when you came to me, I think it was because you wanted to add some podcast music.
Yeah. I still
And I
do.
said, yeah, yeah, which, yeah, no, totally, it'd be great. You wanted to add some podcasts, and I think it'd be great to have podcast music, but I remember saying to you, yeah, I wouldn't be so worried about that. I would actually elevate your interviewing. And I remember the first time I told you that, I think you threw yourself in a trash can because you were like, "Am I a bad interviewer?"
Oh yeah,
That's
for
when you
sure I
said that.
did.
You remember that? And
Yeah,
that's
I
that's
have a
not
trash
what I
can.
meant. That's
My
totally not what I meant either.
Oh no, I know, but my trash can is decorated really nicely. I go in there a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, it was really funny because what's funny is I didn't expect your response about that. I didn't expect you to like have a little mini meltdown over that. And I mean, that was sort of my perception was that you had a bit of a mini meltdown over
Yeah,
that
I did. I did.
when I
I
said that
did,
to you.
and it's because like I it's sort of okay, I'm going to admit this and it's going to sound dumb, but like when everything I do is always new. Everything I'm doing in Crushing Classical, starting at the beginning, everything I was doing is new. And so that means everything I'm doing, I'm sucking at on some level. Then I find out after I've been doing all these interviews, obviously I want to get better at things, of course. Like that's
Right, right.
always the truth about me. But then finding out, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I thought, or maybe this isn't, like, oh, I immediately went to, oh, another thing I'm screwing up, another thing I suck at,
I see. Okay. That makes
so
sense. Yeah. And for me, it's just I'm always, and it's funny because I didn't, and I think you know this now. It wasn't that I thought you sucked. It's that I'm always looking for well, okay, now I'm here. What's the next level?
yeah, and I am too, I think, totally. But then at the same time, when you're doing it, you're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make sense because I always want to be better. I always have been on the
Mm-hmm.
horn. I never was satisfied with where I was. I was
Mm-hmm.
always like, I mean, that's why I lived my life the whole way that I did. Like, I haven't arrived until I'm in this orchestra, and until then, I'm not living my actual real life. It hasn't started yet. Like, I lived
Mm-hmm.
that because I was always looking to be better. But then in the actual day to day stuff that I was doing with Crushing Classical, it was like, of course I want to get better and level up and be awesome and have Oprah level interviews, but there was something about like I don't know that I don't know. It doesn't there's no explanation cuz duh, I'm not going to be Oprah in a year. So,
Sure.
you know.
Sure. But I think what most people don't do, like I understand this, when you're first starting out, you're trying to learn certain skills, and so then you learn a skill, but so at some point though, you have to revisit that and go, and I mean, it could be
Yeah.
any aspect of a business, right? It could be your interviews, it could be your social media, it could be your writing, it could be your videos, it could be any, right? Any
Yeah.
aspect of, but you have to revisit it at some point. You have to go, okay, so here's an honest assessment of where I am now. How can I go higher? How can I improve? How can I, that's how I look at everything is, okay, I'm at this level now. What's the next level?
Yeah.
And what I think people don't do enough of is go back and assess where they are in a certain thing to level it up.
Yep. Yeah, and actually, I think that's what really why the 30-day challenges work really well for us
Yeah. Yep.
because that is actually how I figured out social media. Not, I mean, to the point where I have so far. I'm not saying
Right.
I've mastered it or that I've hacked it, but like that's how I got to this point because every 30 days I would go, okay, this is where I've come, and what do I want to do more of to make it better every
That's right.
time, you
That's
know?
why I like doing challenges. That's why I like doing, like you say, 30-day
Yeah,
periods of, okay, this is I'm gonna put my attention on these three things
totally.
or whatever. And three is usually a good number, but I'm gonna put my attention on these three things, and
Yeah.
that's it. Because you really can't. There's only so much improvement that you can do. And
Yeah.
even if it's just one thing, maybe it's just one thing that you do. But yeah, I mean, I think, but yeah, it's interesting. Like I knew that you had your decorated trash can over there, pretty much. And so there were times though that I hesitated. I remember, along the way, I hesitated to tell you things because I thought, I really hope she doesn't throw herself in there again,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
because it was so easy for you to do.
Yeah. And
I think you've got to the point where you don't do it as much.
I'm finally getting to that point, and I think, it's really a testament to like the stuff that we do here, the challenges and the
Hmm.
courses, because
Yep.
it's an ability to allow yourself just your humanity and not make yourself like just the worst thing ever if you've screwed up. Like,
Hmm.
and actually one of the things I wanted to bring up too here is as I've been learning all these other skills, and this is in our challenges. If you've done a challenge, you'll recognize some of this, but just some of the life stuff that is so important to do in order for the skills to actually work, I guess. Not work, but like for you to be able to focus on the skills. Like for me, it was organizing and scheduling and calendar management and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
this is stuff that I've routinely failed at as well. And in fact, I just I just had a massive calendar fail right before the holidays. I just let my calendar go completely ignored, I guess. Well, I was using it, but I wasn't specific enough in what I needed to be doing. And so then
Hmm.
that would lead to ignoring things. And then that would lead to massively being behind on things. And so, like,
And then guilt.
and then guilt. Yeah.
Yeah, guilt is the worst part about it, I think.
Yep.
Calendar guilt is the worst.
I was living calendar guilt with my calendar. I wasn't, and I still haven't completely mastered it either, but it's almost like I peel off a layer and realize what I was doing wrong and make those improvements, just like you said, like reassessing every
Hmm.
so often to see how can I do this better and what's not working and what can be a lot better than it is now, and
That's
work
what I
towards
do.
that.
That's all I'm doing, honestly. That's really all I'm doing. I'm always assessing, okay, so that didn't work very well, or last week didn't work very well. What didn't work about it? And so I make a list.
Yeah.
And then I look at my calendar and I go, oh, well, I can see the problem. I can see why I thought that or did that. Okay, so now I'm going to change that.
Uh-huh.
And if you can be really objective about it, it's really not a big deal.
Right. That's the
That's the whole
key.
thing. Just got to be objective about it. Okay, this didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to fix it.
Yeah. I think that was one of my biggest problems is that I didn't regularly check back in with myself. And I like the idea of doing that every single week, like just setting aside time and go, okay, where am I? What haven't I gotten done? Why didn't it get done? And
Hmm.
what needs to get fixed? And and this is the other thing, like a couple of times last week and last couple of weeks, I actually realized what I needed was help. Like I just needed to call you and say, help. You know,
Yeah,
there's something happening over here that isn't working, and I don't exactly, I kind of know what to do, but I need assistance,
yeah.
And I think in the past I would have let myself wallow in freak out longer
Hmm.
instead of reaching out for help. So that's another thing that I really got this year,
Yep, for sure.
you know.
Yeah, and I think also one of the reasons why, because Crushing Classical ended up being, it was a what I would say a totally a very successful year for Crushing Classical. I mean, where we ended, where
Yeah.
where Crushing Classical ended this year,
Yeah.
very successful, and um, I think the biggest reason why that happened is because you were willing to be trained and developed
Oh yeah.
along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to actually bring that up because um, I know for a fact that I wouldn't have gotten things would have gotten this far as like, you know,
Hmm.
momentum and achieving certain things. Let's, publishing. I looked at our podcast stats and we've been publishing like not only between every 5 to 7 days because we always publish a fireside chat and then in between there we have interviews and hot seats and it's like this stuff wouldn't be happening if I wasn't being trained.
Mhm.
Just wouldn't
Yep.
be.
Yep. Totally. Yeah, there's a there you don't know everything. That's the whole thing is you don't know everything, and when you don't know, you have to learn.
Yeah.
And so, and also just being open to correction, criticism,
Yeah.
being open to suggestions
Yeah. You
is a
know,
big thing.
yeah, just like how everyone is in their lessons growing up, when you
Yep.
finally get to a certain level, you show up to your lessons open and willing to change and willing to break things down and reassess and reevaluate. All this stuff is familiar in your instrument, but it's not familiar everywhere else.
Yep.
And that's what's happening here with Eileen
Yep.
and with our courses and our challenges. I mean, seriously. And that's what
Yep.
I've been doing with you for the last more than Crushing Classical has been going on for, like, I'd say we've been doing this for 2 years. And I'm
Yep.
lucky that I get to be doing it with you like this because, um, like I said, like it's you have to be shown things. You actually have to be shown things.
Yep.
You can't see outside your own box, and you can't see how you're not seeing things if you can't look from outside your own box, essentially.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And what I told Tracy earlier is the only reason why I can train and develop people is because I too have been trained and developed like a lot, a lot.
Uh huh.
I've been through my own version of hell.
Yeah.
What Tracy's been through for the last almost 2 years with me. I went through that in starting in 2005.
Yeah.
I went through my own version of that. So it was over 10 years ago. But I'm just saying, like, I've been through. I've been trained and developed too, and for many years I have been. And so there's no way that I would be able to do it if I hadn't been trained myself.
Yeah, and this
You know?
this is a thing that's like completely foreign to it's not foreign to the business world at all, but it's totally
Yep.
foreign to the classical music world. People,
Yep. The classical. Yep.
yeah,
That's right.
it's totally foreign.
100%.
And how many
Mm-hmm.
times have I said over the years like, wow, look at the just as if you're going to think of like training as on a simple level like sports, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Olympics. I always thought, well, look at these world class athletes. They still always have a coach all the time, even when they've quote unquote arrived as being professional, like, you know, professional athletes in the Olympics or in the NBA or whatever. They still have a coach. And so I always thought, well, musicians, they're a lot of people liken being a musician to being an athlete. And once you graduate, you don't have a coach anymore. And you're just
Yeah.
off on your own. And which is apparently okay for your playing, but not maybe not always. And then what about the rest of your career? No coach, no training.
Well, it's funny. Like, what I think is interesting about classical music is everyone's been trained on their instrument, but they haven't been trained as a person. They haven't
Right.
been trained as a human. They haven't been trained. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so much. It's funny. I was writing a message to someone recently who was in the Crushing Classical world, one of our clients, and I said, there's just an enormous amount of self-abuse that goes on in classical music.
Oh wow. Totally. Totally.
Self-abuse. I mean, that's all I can call it,
Yeah.
self-abuse. And really, the reason why you guys do that is because you haven't gotten trained how not to do that.
Yep.
That's why.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things I realized this year through this training is why I never got what I wanted.
Yep.
Honestly.
I think you're 100% clear why
Yep.
you never got the career you said you wanted so long ago.
Absolutely. Yep. And
I
it's
think you're
not because of
totally
my
clear
playing.
now.
It's not
Yep.
because of my playing at
It
all.
was not because of your playing. That was probably the ding 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 moment for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
everyone thinks that. So many classical, oh, it's my playing. It's just not good enough. No, I promise you it's not your playing.
right.
It's not. There's so many other things that are speaking louder than your playing, and that is why it is not working for you.
Yeah. I know. And now
So
that
many
I
other
know
things.
this, I can look around and see other people in my same boat, maybe a different looking style boat or whatever, but in
Mhm.
that kind of boat, where they've blamed their playing or this or that, the other, without having the realizations that I've had this year. They just
Mhm.
don't. This is the
Yep.
key. This is absolutely the key.
Yep. And the interesting thing about it is that you came to these realizations on your own.
Yeah.
Nobody told you. You were participating in the training here, which is all led by inquiry.
Yep.
So in other words, we don't tell you how things are. We inquire, and you look and see how things are for you. And that's how you came to. I mean, that's how you know everything you know now. And
Yeah.
actually, you already knew it. You just needed somebody to lead you through
Yeah. Absolutely.
to see what you already knew.
Yeah.
You just couldn't see. That's all.
Yeah, and it's really, again, I'll use that onion analogy because it really was like peeling off layers. Like I was
Hmm.
like, I'll still
One
get,
layer at a time.
yeah, I'll still get
Mhm.
another realization and go, oh wow,
Yep,
that's huge.
it is. There's so many different layers of it, and
Yeah.
the more you do it, the more clear it becomes.
Yep.
And it's really amazing when you dismantle all of the stuff you're telling, why is my playing? Why is nobody picking me? Why am I not advancing or whatever?
Uh-huh.
Why can't I put people together for an ensemble? Why won't anyone stick around? Why this? Why that?
Yep.
You will find your own answers. You don't need anyone to tell you. You
Right.
will find your own answers if trained properly. You will
Yeah.
find your own answers. You don't
Yeah.
need anyone to tell you what's wrong with you or what's wrong with your playing, or you'll actually find what's really going on, and it probably has nothing to do with your playing.
Right.
In fact, I'm 99% sure it has nothing to do with your playing.
Right.
I'll leave that 1% there.
Yeah, I spent the last 10 years, I know that the quality of playing I was putting out was great, and still I felt invisible, like nobody cared or
Mhm.
nobody even, you know,
Mhm.
acknowledged it or appreciated it. I felt totally
Mhm.
underappreciated, you
Yep.
know,
Mhm.
and I figured that
And I
out.
think a lot of people are in that boat actually.
Yeah,
And it's super easy to beat yourself up when you're in that spot, but I
yeah,
mean, I think but that's what I would say the biggest marker is for me about classical music niche is the self-abuse. There's just such an enormous amount of self-abuse going on.
yeah, it's awful. I know.
It's pretty bad. I mean, it's pretty bad. It's not really like anything I've ever seen before in my life.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's
know.
re-
You're coming from the business world and you would tell me things like, oh, people are like, imagine like a gorilla beating his chest, like in the jungle. Like,
yeah,
look at me. Look how awesome I am. I'm like,
yep,
people just don't do that.
yeah. In the business world, it's completely acceptable and it's even championed.
Yeah, like if you're not doing that, that's weird.
Yeah, if you're not doing that, there's a little too much humility there. And especially I'm talking about in America here, USA, because I don't know, I can't say how it is in Australia. They're not too big on chest pounding in Australia.
Uh huh.
Like there's other countries that, they find that to be distasteful, and Australia is one of those places.
Uh
But,
huh.
I only know that because I've worked with people from Australia before, and they have a particular opinion, many of them, about Americans and the chest pounding.
Oh,
Um, that's the reason why I say that. But yeah, no, it's just that's been the biggest surprise for me, I would say, and I think that's why you've got that decorated little trash can over there that you jump into every once in a while.
yeah, for sure.
I think I think everybody's got their own little decorated trash can that they throw themselves into on a regular basis
Yep, for sure.
in classical music.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. So it's really hard for me because of that. I'm learning how not to do that in this other arena. It's funny because, like, you think, oh, well, I was like that in this is where the training is so valuable because I knew that I did that in my I mean didn't really see that I did that to myself in horn playing, and then starting a new thing. Well, here's I can do this other thing and it'll be totally different. Turns out no, because if I didn't change the person who's doing the thing, it doesn't matter what the
mhm.
thing is,
Yep,
right?
totally. Doesn't matter what the thing is. It
Yeah,
applies
that
to everything.
it does.
It applies to everything. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen. I've just seen a lot of growth in you because you've just been open and willing.
Yeah.
That's what it takes. You have to be open, you have to be willing. Um, that's really all it takes to get trained. You have to be willing to be trained.
Yep.
And you have to be willing to be trained in a way you've never been trained before.
Yeah. It's totally different. It
Totally
really
different than
is.
any training you've ever done. I mean, it's so typical to get caught up in the kind of training where everybody gives you the answer. Oh, you should be marketing this way, and oh, you should be sending this out, and oh, you should be social media-ing this way, or whatever,
Or
right?
audition preparation stuff, like
Yeah,
this is how you
audition prep.
should
Oh,
do
you should
it.
audition this way. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is, yeah. I mean, this is how you should audition. This is how you should get work as a freelancer. This is how you should, everybody giving you the answers.
Yeah.
And what you don't realize is you already have the answers. If you would get all the crap out of the way, because you have the answers, you just can't, you've got so much crap in the way that you can't see that you have the answers.
Yeah. That's the most remarkable thing, actually, when you think about it. Wow.
Uh-huh.
You know, to think
Yep.
that you actually have the answers, people are probably listening going, what are you talking about? I don't
What
have
are you
the
talking about? I
answers.
have the answers. If I knew, I would be doing it. Well, you actually do know, but there's a lot of other noise
Yeah.
that's keeping you from what you actually know.
Yep.
It's amazing. You actually know a lot. You actually know how to do a lot of things, but there's so much part of it's self-abuse. The other part of it is what are people going to think? There's all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And
There's a lot.
it's really funny when you mention all these different things you can go and do now, like learn how to market, learn how to
Mhm.
break into a freelance scene or
Put up a
audition,
website.
put up a
Yeah.
website right, or whatever it is that you're looking to do.
Yep.
Those are valid things that you want to learn how to do, but
Yep.
if you the way that you're talking about it now, it's really so obvious to me to think like, well, like what I just said, if I was doing my horn playing one way and I start doing this other thing, this in the same way, it's going to have the same problems. I'm going to run
Hmm.
into the same problems, exactly the same
Yep.
ones, even if I have some new you know, tips on how
Yep.
to do it.
Everybody, yeah, and the thing is, everybody else's answers are not your answers. And the
Yeah,
problem is when you use everybody else's answers and then they suddenly stop working for you, you start looking for more answers. This is the problem.
right.
This is the whole cycle. It's like a cycle of uselessness. That's what it is. It's like, you
Yeah.
know, when something ceases to be useful, you fall right back into useless.
I think that could be like the permission triangle. It could be a circle.
Yep. It could be a
Just
circle.
follow the circle around and
Yep.
around.
Oh, it's useful. Oh, now it's not. Now it's useless. Oh, it's useful. This is useful. Oh, no, it's not anymore. It's useless. Oh, this is
Yeah.
useful. It's not. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's sort of like all the books on my shelf, like my self-help books.
Yep.
This is useful right now. Oh, it's not so useful now. Gotta
Yep.
find a new one,
Exactly.
you know? Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, no, I think we just train differently here because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's so awesome. I've
Hmm.
seen so much this year. Wow. Really.
Yeah, there's lots of learning this year for sure. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, overall, I think it was a great year for you and for Crushing Classical, and I'm really glad you can finish off this year. And I mean, I know you're going to put that post up.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to add from that post that you that you want to talk about on this call?
I don't think so. I was just looking over it actually because I wanted to make sure I covered everything because really the most important part of that was just that not putting yourself in the trash can. But also I do mention in the post and you'll see it that it's sort of like looking, that whole idea of looking at the parade through a knothole in the fence and then looking over the top, you know.
Yeah,
And
actually, talk. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? That's an interesting concept.
yeah, so my teacher used to say that, my teacher in Chicago, Dale Clevenger. He used to say, like, it's like you're watching the parade through a knothole in the fence. You're only going to see whatever's right in front of the hole because the
Hmm.
fence is blocking it. And then when you decide that you can just look over the top of the fence, you get the whole view, you get the whole picture. And I feel
Hmm.
like that's what happened to me over this year. Like I really saw something totally different, not only for my own career, but for the whole classical music world. And I've
Hmm.
gotten this whole new vantage point that actually sometimes really is emotional and like blows me away at the same time. Like I go, especially through the people that we're meeting through our community, like
Hmm.
I go, wow, these people are starting out now. Like what are they're gonna be doing in 10 years? And like
Yeah.
this is long game stuff. Like this isn't, you don't start and then like tomorrow Crushing Classical has, 200,000 downloads per
Right.
episode or whatever. This is like, This is long game. So like
Yep.
but I feel like because of this last year and where we are now, I feel like wow, I see over the fence, and I'm just really excited about what's going to happen going forward, and just want more and more people to come join us
Mm-hmm.
essentially, you know?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And the other thing I'll say too is one of the things that started to happen. I would say it was after we hit around the 800 mark of likes on our page.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that happened was we stopped having to, how do I say, try to get likes.
Yes.
Did you notice that?
Yes.
So it sort of took on a life of its own
Mm-hmm.
once we hit around, I think it was around 800.
Yep. I
It
agree.
started to just, because we add, anywhere between, say, 5 and 10 likes a week now.
Yeah.
And that isn't to say, I mean, of course, obviously, there's still publishing going on, there's still work going on, there's still courses and challenges, whatever. We're still doing all that stuff. But I'm just saying, we're not, before we were throwing memes out in the world to see what was going to work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
We're not doing that anymore. We're just focusing on, what is there to do today.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's nice to see that what that shows us is that there's a conversation happening
Yep,
outside, you know,
that's right.
and people are bringing it up, or they hear about it from somewhere, which is super exciting to
Yeah,
hear, you
it
know.
is. Yep.
When someone tells me, "Oh, I heard I heard about crushing classical from someone or whatever." I'm like, this is great. This is like word of mouth. This is what you want to have
Yep,
happen. So,
totally.
yeah.
Yep. So I think that's a really cool. It was unexpected actually. I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know that, the page would just grow
Yeah.
without, because we're not really. I can't honestly say. I mean, am I wrong? We're not really doing anything to. There's nothing heroic. We're not doing anything heroic to get people to like the page,
Right, right.
right, or
Yeah.
follow the page, right?
Yeah, no, there hasn't been any more viral memes, although that would be cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still of course always trying to think of something. In fact, the other day, inside Classical Cats, I think we like through a conversation that we were having there, a really funny conversation actually. There was an idea that came through for a video. So I actually want to explore that a little bit more. I want to talk to those people that we were talking, because I think it'd be funny. But
Yeah.
I won't tell what it's
Totally.
about, so it'll be a surprise.
Yeah. 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 Don't say
But
anything.
I would really like to have some more of those, just because they're fun, and it
Yeah.
spreads the word fast, sort of like a little, spark that catches fire or something. But yeah, no, right now it's really organic and gradual. Like it's so nice to be able to look at the page and go, "Oh, three more people liked it yesterday," or whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So that's
Yeah.
really cool.
It is cool. Yeah. I mean, it's not work anymore to grow it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just is growing. There's always work involved. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not, the work is never done. It's a
Right.
daily, it's a daily thing. There's always something to do. But yeah, so it's been really cool to see that one
Yes.
thing happen. I just
Yeah.
thought I'd mention that for anyone who's wondering, like, how do you grow your page? Well, you do a lot of work to
Yeah.
start off, and then once you get to a certain number, it sort of handles itself.
Yeah, and you have to keep on being consistent, because a bunch of
Yeah,
people just liked your page. Now they want to see something from you,
that's right.
you
Yep.
know?
If you're not publishing, you got problems.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So I think that's one of the biggest things I see out there in the world of musicians trying to start their social presence, is that they just need to do it more. That's
Yeah.
all, you know?
Yep.
So, yeah. All right. I think we could talk about this forever, because there's just so much more to go into with this, but we'll just keep doing these firesides, um and our challenges too, because it's just, I don't know. I think we're just in a really exciting time, honestly, for classical music. And I can't say
Mhm.
that I always thought that, like, to the core. I heard
Mhm.
people say it before. And I remember you said it when we first started working on Crushing Classical. I was like, okay, well, that could be true, but I don't know yet. And now I fully believe it.
Mhm.
I really do.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see it in the people who are finishing up our courses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're actually starting things,
Yeah.
moving things forward, you
Yeah.
know?
And they're really cool things too.
Yeah, really cool things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I love it.
rock
Awesome.
on.
Rock on. Well, and Happy New Year. I mean, when this comes out, it's going to be New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
So,
man. Happy New Year, everybody, and thanks
yeah.
for being a part of the Crushing Classical family and listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Obviously, it makes a big difference, and also all of your comments and everything in Classical Cats. Whenever Tracy asks for feedback on, hey, we're gonna have a guest, and what would you like to know about? It's just really great that you guys are participating and letting us know what you want to hear.
Absolutely. I got so many suggestions for good interviews for next year. And yeah. And the CPA thing that we did last week was,
Yeah, the CPA thing was great.
I got all the questions for him from that conversation in Classical Cats. So if you haven't joined Classical Cats yet, please join because it's fun in there,
Yeah,
actually. It's
it
really
is.
fun.
We have like open mic night every pretty much every evening. We haven't had it so much recently because it's been the holiday, but I think it'll pick back up in the new year.
Yeah, the last couple of nights there hasn't been much going on, but I like throwing out some conversational topics and stuff to do
Yeah,
right at the in the evening. It seems like people
yeah,
are sort of online at that time, and it's really fun. So
it is fun. It's been
yeah,
good. It's been
yeah,
good. It's like the bar. It's like the bar everybody gathers at night.
yeah, exactly. It is. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening today, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.